How's it going, everyone? Sean here from Raw Technique Studios. Thank you guys for coming to this page and watching this video. I wanted to do something a little bit different. Instead of just doing a sale like I usually do for Thanksgiving and Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I wanted to give you guys something for free so you guys could use something regardless whether you're looking to buy something or not. So let's go ahead and break down what it is that you're getting. And it's a Pro Tools template. If you are in a different DAW, say you're in Studio One or whatever other DAW you are using, you could still watch this video and see the techniques that I'm using and apply that to your own DAW. So even if you don't have Pro Tools, still watch this video so you could see how this template is set up and apply it to your own. Now, if you do have Pro Tools, the download link is below this video for Pro Tools 7 to 9. That's a PTF file. You could download that if you're in Pro Tools 7, 8, or 9. If you're in Pro Tools 10, 11, or 12, then you could go ahead and download the PTX file, which is down below as well, and you'll get this template here. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Just break it down really briefly and make it to where you know what you're doing when you use it and you could get the best out of it. So the first thing is your 2-track beat. This is where you just drag in your stereo beat. If you have tracked out stems, then you're going to have to create more tracks. So you could just Shift Command N to create more tracks, or go up to track and then new track. And then go ahead and create, whether they're stereo or mono, it just depends. One way to do it, if you don't know if they're stereo or mono, then what you could do is come down to the bottom where this gray area is and just drag in your stems right here. It'll automatically create either stereo or mono based on the type of audio track that it is. So go ahead and just drag them in there and you could use that. But if you're using a 2-track beat, which most people use, then you could go ahead and just drag it in right here. So for example, I have an instrumental here. I'm just going to drag it in to the beginning of the session right there. And then minus 14.5, that's for headroom. So go ahead and leave that there unless your beat is not mastered. Some beats aren't, most of them are though. So this is for a full blast mastered beat. I bring it down about minus 14 or so. But if it's not mastered, it's still quiet, then you could go ahead and turn this up a bit. It's up to you. For the vocals, I have it to where there's an EQ, a compressor, reverb, and delay setup. So what you want to do is you'll just go ahead and record here. And depending on your setup, what interface you're using, all of that will determine how you record. I put out a video on YouTube, a free video on recording without latency using direct monitoring. So you could watch that if you need help with that. But the whole thing is I like to record dry. So I just would go like this. I go to the playback engine, let's say 256 samples, and then record. And then I just lay down a recording here. If you're getting too much latency there, then what I would do is the direct monitoring, and I like to go up here, low latency monitoring, and you're going to have to switch this over from the mix bus to the regular output 1 and 2. That makes it to where it mutes the output 1 and 2 when recording. And then you could go into whatever software, or even if it's on your interface, direct monitoring mode, which is right here. So I would unmute that. And then now I'm listening directly through my interface instead of through the DAW. And so when I record enable this, then I'm not hearing it in here, but I will be hearing it in here. So I could track, and then it'll record without actually hearing the audio. You can still hear the beat and everything, just not the track that you're recording on. All right, so that's direct monitoring to deal with latency. All right, so say once you get your vocals recorded in there, and let me chop this up. All right, so here's your vocals. You got that in there, and you could start applying these effects. So the EQ is set up for you right here. It's just a stock EQ. So I set up this template, so if you only have stock plugins, you can still use it. Or if you have the plugins that like I prefer to use, then you could use those, and you could choose between. You don't have to do one or the other on overall. You could just choose between on each track. So if you only have the stock plugins, here's the setup right here for the EQ. You can make adjustments if you need to, but this usually sounds pretty good. So here's a little before and after on that. Just the EQ without it.
I'm not a fan of how things really been going lately. How life just wanna grab and fucking suffocate me. They can't bear my success, they wanna hibernate me. Highly uncoordinated, but you can never coordinate me.
All right, so you could hear that it cleans up the vocal a bit. I make any adjustments needed, but that's what I like to start with. And then a compressor.
I'm not a fan of how things really been going.
So the threshold when you get it is going to be at 0. That's to make sure that it's adhering to all the different levels of vocals that are used with this template. So all the gain, I have the gain at 0, but the attack, the release, the ratio, and the knee are all set up how I like it. And then what you would do is just listen to the vocal and then adjust the threshold. And I like to average about -3 to -5 dB or so, or actually -2 to -5 dB of gain reduction here. So I'm going to pull this down.
I'm not a fan of how things really been going lately. How life just wanna grab and fucking suffocate me. They can't bear my success, they wanna hibernate me. Highly uncoordinated, but you can never coordinate me.
All right, so you can see I'm averaging about -2, -3, but on the louder part,
Me, or try to break me down and dismantle.
it went to about -4 here. So that's good. You could add back in that gain here on the compressor just by doing it here. I'd put like 3 dB of gain back.
I'm not sure why y'all think that y'all can handle me, or try to break me down and dismantle me. You don't know where I'm from, I'm from Detroit. Yeah.
All right, so that's just to deal with the dynamics. So here's your highest point, here's your lowest point, and we're compressing it into the signal and then raising that overall volume with the gain here. Then I have a reverb setup for you. And on your reverb track, what it's doing is sending from this bus out into this aux track and allowing reverb to get blended in with the signal. This is the stock reverb that comes with Pro Tools. If you don't have any other reverbs, this one's fine. So here's adding in that.
I'm not a fan of how things really been going lately. How life just wanna grab and suffocate me. They can't bear my success, they wanna hibernate.
You could add in as little or as much as you want, or you could just not have it on at all, just mute it out. That's fine. But that's the stock reverb there. And then if you want to use the other reverb, you could go ahead and make this inactive and then make the reverb active if you own this plugin. This is the reverb waves plugin, and then I already have it set up, so same thing.
I'm not a fan of how things really been going lately. How life just wanna grab and suffocate me. They can't bear my.
Okay, so it's up to you which one you use. If you don't have reverb, just use deverb, it's fine. But just pick one. You don't want to use both at the same time, then it'll sound like it will be 2 reverbs on it, so it'll sound overwhelming. But let's go ahead and go back to that stock deverb here. And then let's look at our delay. I have 2 different delays set up, so you want to pick one over the other. Mod delay 3 here is the stock delay, and then my other delay is H delay. So if you have that, that's what I usually use, but it's up to you. Let's go ahead and make that inactive for now. I have an EQ here underneath the mod delay because on my H delay, I like to EQ it inside of the H delay, but the mod delay doesn't allow me to EQ the top and bottom. So what I wanted to do was add the EQ for that same effect, and that will sound like this.
I'm not a fan of how things really been going lately. How life just wanna grab and suffocate me. They can't bear my success, they wanna hibernate me. Highly uncoordinated, but you can never coordinate me.
All right, so that's the delay with the EQ. If you don't want the EQ,
Not a fan of how things really been going lately. How life just wanna grab and suffocate me.
all right, so it's up to you how you want to use that. I'm using a mono delay here because I wanted it just dead center. I didn't want the stereo delay, sounds a little weird with mod delay for some reason. So I just wanted to do a mono delay. And then it's up to you whether you use that EQ or not. If I make both of these inactive and I use H delay instead, then it's already built in.
How things really been going lately. How life just wanna grab and suffocate me. They can't bear my.
So that is the delay choices, and you can use whichever one you want. All right, and then also on our vocals, I have the Neutron Elements plugin. So if you happen to have this plugin, you could go ahead and not use the compressor, the stock compressor and EQ, and use this instead because it has EQ and compressor. Same idea. The EQ, set up how I like it, make adjustments as needed. Compressor, set up how I like it, but all you have to do is bring down that threshold. So
going lately, high life, just wanna grab and suffocate me. They can't bear my success, they wanna hibernate me, hollering.
all right, same thing, just average about -2 to -5 dB or so, and you put back a little on the gain if you'd like. So just adjust your threshold until you see that gain reduction there. That is it for that section. This is just another vocal track, same exact setup as this one. Same thing, just do your adjustments as needed, and you could layer in your vocals. Third vocal track here, same exact thing. The only thing I added here was that you could do a duplicate. So before you record anything on this track, you know you're going to need a couple more. Just go ahead and right click on it, press duplicate, and you could duplicate it as many times as you want, just one time or however many. If you already recorded something on it, then you would take active and alternate playlist off because you don't want to copy the vocals over again. Automation, inserts, sends, all of that will be copied over. So if you've already recorded on it, go ahead and uncheck these two. But if you haven't, it doesn't matter because there's nothing there. Press OK, it'll just duplicate it. All right, so that's if you need more tracks. All right, so when you're done recording, you want to put your vocal back onto the mix bus, or else you'll hear just the effects. So I'm putting it back on the mix bus output, and now I'll hear the vocals. Mix bus is where my mastering's done. If you only have the stock plugins, then I have you set up with a compressor, an EQ, and a limiter. So you can see here with the compressor, what you're going to be doing is adjusting the threshold, and I like to average about -4 dB or less on this, so maybe 3 or -4. And let's find that here.
I'm not a fan of how things really been going lately. High life, just wanna grab and suffocate me. They can't.
So right around there is -4, so that's what I would do with the compressor. And then I'd go on to the EQ. I like to leave it like that. I just like that roll off. And then on the limiter, what I like to do is pull it down together.
Bear my success, they wanna hibernate me, highly uncoordinated, but you can never coordinate me. Things really been going lately. High life, just wanna grab and fucking suffocate me. They can't bear my success.
So I'm just getting a little bit of attenuation here on the gain reduction. And then what I would do is unlink these, and this is where you add in all your level. And I like to do it at -0.2 as my ceiling, and then that's where you get the really loud part to get the full level. So say you don't want to use these stock plugins because you have different ones, then what I like to use is, this is my mastering chain that I use all the time, and I have it with a SSL compressor. You want to do that same thing where you adjust the threshold. Everything else I have set up how I like it.
I'm not a fan of how things really been going lately. I like
to average right here, right under the 4 dB. And then I do a J37. The only thing you have to do on this one is adjust your in and out.
I just want to grab and suffocate me.
So what I'm trying to do is get it close to the 0 without overdoing it.
They can't bear my success, they want to hibernate me, highly uncoordinated, but you can never coordinate me.
So right around there. Aux side, it's all set up. All you have to do is set your input and your output.
It's a hard knock life.
So I like to average where my peaks are hitting right around 0 here. And then whatever I do on the input, I do the opposite on the output to level it out to where I'm not adding too much gain. And then on this one, it's already set up as is. This one, I have my roll-off set up as is. And then the limiter, it's all set up. You just need to set your threshold and your output ceiling. So I just like to do this little part in the middle, which is linking it.
By Jay-Z, that boy. But you can never coordinate me.
So I like to listen to like the louder parts of the song where the drums hit and everything, and then you could see how much gain reduction you're getting. And then after you have it all set up, add in that output ceiling back up to -0.2. All set and competitively loud with everything else out there. So that is the whole setup of the template. When you record, make sure you're doing output 1 and 2 if you're using low latency monitoring and doing direct monitoring. If you're not sure about that, then watch my free YouTube video on recording without latency and with effects. That video will cover low latency monitoring. It'll cover direct monitoring, how to get that all set up so you can record without latency. All right, and last thing here, on your reference track, if you have a song that you're referencing, so say there's a popular song that you like, the vocal balance and with the beat or something like that, you could drag it in here. You could turn it down if needed, but what I like to do is keep it at 0. So when I'm mastering, I could listen to just the reference track, which will be coming out of this master that has no plugins on it. So I'm listening to that just as is, and then I can mute it and listen to my song going through my mastering chain and compare the professionally done song that I'm referencing and my master to see how they go together. So that's something that's really useful, is using a reference track when mastering. Another quick thing I wanted to add in was a de-esser. So if you have sibilants in your vocals, you could go ahead and put a de-esser on, which would be the stock one right here. We're going to click the HF only because we're only going to be taming that high frequency range there. We're going to listen to it, try to find an S or so.
Young buck, what is up and all you? Young buck, what is up and all you? Young buck, what is up and all you?
All right, so just that harsh stuff is what we're going to be compressing. So we're listening just to the harsh. Let's take listen off. And then we're going to pull the range down.
Young buck, what is up? Young buck, what is up? Young buck, what is up?
Notice on the S, it pulls down, it compresses that top end. So that's what a de-esser is to compress that top end. So let's listen to a before and after.
Young buck, what is up and all you? Young buck, what is up and all you?
So it just tames the vocals a bit on the top end where the sibilance is. So some vocals are more sibilant than others, so some will definitely need it. I usually use it, so just adjust your range to get, I'll leave it at 0, but adjust your range so you're getting some compression on the sibilants, so S's, T's, stuff like that. That is everything. Hopefully that is explained well enough for you guys. If you have any questions, you can always hit me up, but I hope you guys enjoy this free template and make some good music. All right, so I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for picking this up, and thanks for stopping by the website. Peace.